Here at Endfloat headquarters, we're overstocked on Mazda MX-5s and we're passing the savings on to you. The Mazda MX-5s are multiplying and we've got another one on the ramp. What are we going to do with this? This MX-5 is not actually mine. It's a common sight on the roads in the village I live in, and I got talking to the owner, and it turned out she's been having problems with it and has not been able to get anybody to look at it for her. Well, I'm looking at it now. So what's the story with it? First of all, it's got a blown head gasket. Secondly, the exhaust is hanging off it. How do I know it's got a blown head gasket? Let me show you. First of all, I know it's been overheating because I was talking to the current owner of it, and you can actually see the evidence of it here with all the rusty water and everything like that. Secondly, you open the oil filler cap and you can see all of the emulsified oil and gunge in there. And that's a sure sign of head gasket failure. And then lastly, when we have the engine running, and I'm not going to start it now because I don't want to smoke out my garage, when you take that pipe out of there and just dip it into the water that's in there, it's not coolant actually anymore, it's just water, you can see it blowing bubbles. Now those bubbles are combustion gases that are making their way through the radiator and up into this pipe here and into there. So there's three sure signs that there is a head gasket failure going on in this. And lastly, there is steam coming from the tailpipe when it does run. So before we go any further with this car, let's get the head gasket replaced. It's a bit of an involved job, but to be honest with you, it's the first thing that needs to be done, and it also needs a new exhaust. I have a whole load of parts ordered that haven't arrived yet, but by the time I'm probably finishing this video, they will have all arrived. And then there's a lot of other little bits and pieces we can take care of on the car and get this back to the fabulous little car that it once was. First off, we're going to drain the coolant. So the plug in the bottom of the radiator here just pops out. You have to make sure you take the radiator fill cap off first of all though. And get all that crap out of there. But that's just pure water. Alright, good enough for the purposes of this exercise. We're going to be flushing the radiator anyway. So it's drained down so that we're not going to have any issues with coolant and oil mixing when we take the cylinder head off. It's just a little bit in the bottom of the radiator. What we can do is we can take that plug out again at a later stage and just make sure it's all completely drained. Alright, get the oil out of it. See what sort of crap comes out of here. Oh, look at that. That is looking pretty bad. Not supposed to be that colour. So next I want to crack the nuts holding the exhaust on. And they're 16s for reasons I don't fully understand. Now this car has more mileage on it than the Hubble Space Telescope. 249,000 miles. So that to me is reason enough for it to have blown a head gasket, in all honesty. I mean, you could forgive it that at that kind of mileage. I need to find a 17mm socket, or a 16mm 6-point socket. Alright. Be able to get it with a 17mm 6-point socket. So that's that one off. Let's hope the other one comes off as easily. I sprayed them earlier on when I was in the garage. So I sprayed all of the hangers with WD-40, except for one of them actually, I just noticed. And that'll help me slip the hanger off the spud that it goes onto. So we can get a pry bar now and pull them off. Oh, Jesus, nearly got that in the face. Alright. Jesus, this is rotten. The whole back box is about to break away from the front pipe, or from the rear pipe. So if that actually come off, it will. Oh my God! No wonder this thing sounded like a tractor. There we go. There's section one of it. That's supposed to come off in one piece, and then there's a single hanger here and one here. Need to take them off, and then that gets this whole section of pipe out of the way. The new exhaust I ordered for this, obviously. I didn't know it was this bad. There we go. That was handy. Good Lord, that is some nasty looking oil. course, I'm going to be flushing the coolant and the oil system. I mean, once we've got the new head on it, or the new head gasket on it, what we'll do is I'll put some flushing oil through it and run it for a few kilometres and get all that crap out of it, and then give it a proper fresh oil change. Now let's see if we can get the front section of the exhaust off. There we go. Happy days. Alright. I don't go in the oil. Alright, there we go. It's this fairly crusty looking bracket that's holding the front pipe up. Well, it wasn't really, I mean, given the fact that it's corroded and just fell apart in my hands, along with the heat shield, or what's left of it. But it's off, so that's a good start. Something tells me that aircon condenser ain't going to work no more. Right, so we've got pretty much everything we need to do done under the car for the moment. So let's get it down on the ramp and start having a look at the top side of the engine and getting a few things taken off there. I just ran the polishing wheel over one section of the bodywork there just to see how it comes out. What a fabulous colour. It's going to look really, really well now when I've got the whole car done. Okay, so I'm just going to mark up the HT leads here so we know which plugs to go back onto it, because we're going to start removing things like HT leads and wiring and all that as well. Now, to be honest with you, the wiring in this car is quite straightforward because I'm a dumbass. Hang on. The wiring is not straightforward because I'm a dumbass. It's straightforward because the plugs really only fit in one place, and they kind of fall within their natural kind of location anyway. We're going to be taking the coil pack off as well. So let's see now. Yeah, we'll start disconnecting all of the wiring right the way around the car. All the way around the top end anyway. I mean, taking photos is always a help as well, but I have another car I can compare it to, so I'm kind of fortunate in that regard. But if you don't, take photos on your phone. It's a great thing about having a camera phone these days. I don't think we need to take the intake manifold off in order to remove the head gasket, but if we do, that's what we'll be doing. I'd say what I'll probably do is I'll take off the intake manifold when the head is already off, if it doesn't need to come off when it's in the car, and then at least it means I can put a new gasket on it and all that, because I've got a top end gasket set ordered for this car, as well as just the likes of the head gasket. So we'll be doing all of the gaskets in the top end. That's all that wiring disconnected. Take off our accelerator cable from here. We'll just take the bracket off so we don't lose our adjustment. And what I'm doing is I'm putting all of the fasteners back into position as I go. Vacuum line comes off there. Alright. Now we can take off our intake pipework. There is also a little wiring harness clip that's actually clipped onto the intake pipework down here as well, which needs to be dealt with. That's much of that dealt with. Take all of that wiring out of the way. There is another connector going onto the throttle body then as well. We can disconnect that once the pipework is out of the way, but we need to take off our coolant top hose now at the moment. Now I have this special tool for removing these bloody clips. I hate the damn things, but when you have the right tool, they're not as bad. I still don't like them, but they're just, without the correct tool, they're a right pain in the face. Now, here we go. There we go. And just get it out of the way altogether. And let's see now. Our breather hose should come out of the way, and I'm noticing there's two rounded off or stripped broken bolts actually there. They're supposed to be holding this piece of pipework in place. So I wonder who did that and why. So this is our crankcase breather hose. And there's a significant chunk of engineering out of the way, giving us much better access straight away. we're going to have to take off the belt, and we're going to have to take the timing belt off and all that as well. So basically we just have to keep digging until we get to the end. Let's get that harness connector out of the way there. Okay, so that's a lot of the wiring done and dealt with now. Everything's fairly oil soaked. I'll probably be replacing belts and stuff like that in here. I do have a new timing belt ordered, but I didn't order the auxiliary belts. I actually just never thought of it, to tell you the truth. But that is something we will be doing, given the nature of the beast. Okay, it's a couple of days later for me now, and I'm continuing on. So I'm going to take off the coil pack over here now. Get that out of our way, and they are 12s holding that in place. God almighty. And that was well on there anyway. Now, if everything is as it should be, there should be another third bolt holding it on down the back of the engine here. So I'm going to just... Oh no, there's not. Alright. Well, in a way that kind of just makes life easier for me. And then you just undo the clip holding the lambda sensor wiring onto that. Get that out of the way, and there's our coil pack off. We can leave the leads on. The leads are all labelled up and everything as well. Somebody definitely has been in here before. I mean, that's a given, but yeah, it's how far they actually went on that occasion. I'm not fully sure. So anyway, that's keep that out of the way now. And that's all that wiring is disconnected. Now we can start having a look at taking off the exhaust manifold, and I'm sure that's going to be great fun altogether. Right, so there's 3 bolts holding the exhaust manifold on, and that one actually did come free. Actually, while I think of it, and I put the 2 bolts for the coil pack back in their respective holes so we don't lose them. Because unlike my wife's car, I will not be taking off parts from this and throwing them over my shoulder like the previous owner of that car did. Alright, that opens up a bit more space. Right, now let's see if we can get this off, and yes we can. So there's another bolt down here which would have originally been holding a bracket onto the exhaust too. But fortunately enough I didn't need to do anything with that because it just kind of fell off. So I'm going to take that out of the way, and let's have a look at what we need to do to get the exhaust header off. It's a 4-into-1 header. It's not even a manifold. That's it's quite cool. So let's see now. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rusty looking bolt or nuts there that need to be removed. So spray them first of all. Right, let's see if we can buzz a few of them out with this. Happy days. Obviously I'm going to clean up all of these studs before I put the nuts back on when I'm reassembling everything, and I have a new gasket for the exhaust header here as well. So okay. Just need to undo a wiring harness clip there for the lambda probe. So there's the exhaust gasket, so that's going to be getting replaced as well. Okay, so the lambda probe disconnected, and exhaust manifold or header or whatever you want to call it removed. And again, that'll be getting cleaned up before being refitted. Alright, so now we can get the rocker cover off, or cam cover, whatever you want to call it. So I already went around and cracked them loose. And what we'll do is when we take this off, I have little screw bags, which are like plastic bags with drawstring on them, which I can put all the bolts in and attach them to the cam cover. Alright, so now there's our cam cover off with all of the associated mayonnaise that we were expecting to find in here. Oof, we'll be giving that a wash as well. And that's revealing part of the timing belt cover, so we're going to need to start getting access to the timing belt as well now. So there are 3 4 bolts down the front of the engine here to remove this part of the timing cover. You can get that away as well. And then what I want to do is rotate the engine to top dead center with number 1 on the compression stroke. You can tell the timing belt has been done in this. I imagine that's the reason why a lot of this was accessed before, because you can still see all your Tipex marks and everything like that on it. But still in all, it's getting a new timing belt because we don't know exactly when it was done. Alright, so that's that out of the way now. There's the screw bags I'm talking about. So they'll just stay attached to the part, and we can just throw the part over in a crate I have over yonder there to keep it out of the way. Yeah, so now we can start looking at this, taking off our power steering belt and our alternator belt now in a second. Down on the back of the alternator here, just behind where my finger is, there is a 12mm bolt which comes through to this side. You need to slacken that off, and then you turn that bolt in to slacken the belt on the alternator, and that will allow us to take the belt off. Now, you might be tempted to cut the belt because of the fact that you're going to be replacing it. But if you do that, you're still going to have to loosen the alternator anyway at a later stage. So at this rate, you may as well just take it off properly. I need 2 hands to do this. So I'll put you back in the stand. Okay. It's loose enough now. So if you actually loosen this bolt off, you should be able to just lift it up out of the way altogether. And then that means the alternator will just hinge out of the way, and there's our alternator belt off. We still have to get the power steering one off. Same process. Crack this loose here, and then alright, slacken that off. 14, so we need to undo those. So there's 2 14s here as well, then we're going to need to slacken, and the reason being is that they are holding the power steering pump in position even with the tensioner released. So just crack that one off, and then there'll be another one through the hole down here as well on the pulley. Might need to rotate the engine to get at it. Oh, we actually are alright. There's enough movement in that now. Right, let's get that belt off as well. Alright, so that is running our aircon compressor as well on this car. So we'll get that off. I'm going to get that belt off. So there's the 2 auxiliary belts taken off. Throw them out of the way, we'll be replacing them. Now we need to get our water pump pulley off and our bottom pulley. I'm just going to get this coolant hose out of the way first. Now there are 3 10mm bolts on the top pulley, and we have a new water pump ordered for this as well, so we're going to be changing that as well. So let's get our 10mm bolts out first. You know, if I'd had any sense, I would have done this when the belt was still on it, because then it would have at least held it in position for me, but I didn't think of that. So we just have to do something else. Electric ratchet for the win. Okay, there's those 3 bolts out, and there's the pulley off. So I'm actually going to put those bolts in a bag with this pulley, because the pulley is the different pulleys have different bolts. Now, while the pulley is still on the bottom of the bottom end of the engine, I'm going to just rotate the engine until I line up our timing marks. So I still have the plugs in it, so I'm fighting against compression a little bit here, but there's a top dead center mark on the pulley, so I just need to get a torch so I can see the bloody thing. So I'm just going to put a little paint mark on the top dead center notch on the pulley, because it's very faint on these cars. There's the engine top dead center now. Right. Now, I fully expect that will move a little bit, but we'll be putting it back to where it was before anyway. So I'm going to take off there are 1, 2, 3, 4 there are 4 bolts in there that need to be removed for the pulley. So we're going to take that off now. Okay, so there's 4 bolts in here, and there's a kind of a spacer. in behind it as well. Take the pulley and spacer off, and there we have it. Now these pulleys are what's called the harmonic dampers. So they're made up of two parts and they absorb vibration. But so it's worthwhile just inspecting it and making sure that it's all as it's supposed to be. Right, so we can get our timing belt covers off now. So let's that cover off. So wriggle that out, and now you will see on this cover, see these marks here? They're your timing marks. So that one there says T beside it, so that's top dead center, and then there's a 10 on this one here, so that'll be 10 degrees before top dead center. And when we're setting the timing on this engine, which we will do, we're going to set it to 14 degrees before top dead center. And that basically gets us into the right ballpark. Okay, so now we need to try and get that bottom timing belt pulley off, and that's going to be a right pain in the face. So we can't leave this car in gear and expect the wheels not to move because it's an automatic car and the torque converter will just slip. So what I've done is I've removed this little access cover on the very bottom of the engine, and what we're going to do is we're going to get a pry bar and just lock the engine there, and then we're going to remove the bolt for the bottom pulley on this end. These earlier engines, unfortunately, see this flange here is actually an integral part of the flywheel pulley. Well, it goes on the front of the flywheel pulley, and until you take that flange off, you can't get the belt off. So that's why we have to remove that. Otherwise, I'd have left the thing on. Bugger. Oh, this is going to be a right pain in the face. There we go. That's the job. Now it's coming loose. A lot easier if the pry bar just stay where it's supposed to be. And don't move. Now, if you were doing your head gasket and you weren't intending to change your timing belt, like let's say for example you had only literally just changed it, or you knew there was only like 5,000 miles on it or something like that, I suppose in theory you could actually just leave this bottom pulley bolt in, just leave the belt wrapped around it. But because of the fact that we're changing the belt here, you got to take this off on this version of the car anyway. In the later cars you don't have to, apparently. I've never worked with one of the later cars, but that's what I've heard. Okay, there is the bottom pulley bolt. Now we're going to get that flange off. The pulley, hopefully the bottom pulley will stay on, and it'll be just the kind of flanged washer type of thing that'll come off. All right, so there is our flange for the pulley, and as I said, I don't think the later cars have this outer ridge, so you don't actually need to remove it. So now, that gives us access to the bottom pulley with the belt. I think we may have found the reason why the car overheated. I showed you earlier on in the video what the aircon condenser was looking like, but have a look at it now. Not much by way of fins left in that, is there? And that's because they're all down there. I kind of tried to just pry the condenser a little bit away from the cooling radiator, and yeah, a lot of it just kind of fell apart. The thing is absolutely rotten with corrosion, and I'd say that was probably blocking airflow into the cooling radiator. So what I'll do is I might just say to her if she wants me to just remove that altogether or replace it at a later stage. So yeah, we'll ask the question. In the meantime, what I might do is just take out the rest of the fins, because they are actually literally just pulling out from the radiator, and at least that allows airflow into the important radiator behind it. Whatever hit it though in the first instance, at least it protected the, like, look at that, it protected the radiator behind. See this? It's rotten. But they'll literally just blow out the airflow, like. Yeah, I just decided to take it out. He's, I would say, a piece of shit. But Fortunately enough, the cooling radiator looks fine, so happy days. Just need to try and do something with that bracket there. Missing a bolt. So we'll get that, and we leave all the rest of the aircon pipework in place, so that if the owner decides to reinstate it in the future, she can just stick in a, well, may need more. Oh geez, there's a bracket missing from the radiator there as well. There's supposed to be a little spud holding the radiator in place there, so get something for that. But yeah, we'll put the bolt in there, and yeah, if she wants to reinstate the aircon, hopefully it'll only be just a case of putting in a new condenser. Whether they're available or not, I don't know. Just going through everything here, I found that all the bolts holding the fan shroud onto the bottom of the radiator were all missing. So I've put them back on now as well, so that's all buttoned up. And yeah, when we have the car outside and back mobile again, I'll get the pressure washer and just blast the radiator out of it, make sure there's no kind of aluminium corrosion left inside. Just take care of this little bracket here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a long bolt with a piece of rubber tube on it and just stick it through there, put the rubber tube on the end, and that's pretty much what I did in my wife's car, because the same piece was missing, and that will hold the radiator securely in place as well. And I'm aware also, by the way, that there is actually a big piece of plastic missing from here as well, so that's maybe something we'll want to address down the line too. And there we have it. Okay, so that is holding the radiator nice and firm there now, so we're all good with the radiator. As I said, I'm going to wash everything down after the fact here, so we're making good headway. So let's get the car down on the ramp again and start having a look at the top end of the engine, because now that we have that pulley exposed up there, we can start getting the timing belt off. So I pulled this pipe here off the stat housing at the bottom, and a big gob of goopy, sludgy crap came out of there. So I'm going to be taking the stat housing off anyway, but I'm hoping the top end gasket set will come with a new gasket for that. If we have to put a new thermostat in it, we'll do that as well, but it's definitely something that's going to need to be flushed out. I suppose the thing about it is if I'm doing the water pump, then this is going to be getting taken off as well anyway. So yeah, makes me happier that I'm actually doing the water pump. Right, so anyway, next things to do is to undo that bolt there, that bolt there. This is the idler pulley, and this is the tensioner pulley, and there's a spring over here, and we need to unhook the spring from the little spud there, and that will allow the tensioner to fall free. But first of all, I just want to rotate the engine back to where it's at top dead centre, or at least near as makes no difference. It's not far off the mark there now at the moment. We don't, unfortunately, now have the luxury of having the nut on the bottom pulley, so I'm just going to very, very gently turn here. You're not really supposed to do this, but it's all right for the time being. So that's the mark is lined up on the bottom pulley now. There's a notch on the inner ring on it, and that's the inlet and exhaust pulleys are all lined up as well. So now should be able to get our tensioner and idler pulleys off. When I say that, I mean it'll come with new idler and tensioner pulleys, but it won't obviously come with the camshaft pulleys. But anyway, there's one of the bolts out, and get this one out here as well. Shouldn't be any more than finger tight really. So there's our idler pulley out. It does look like the belt was actually done fairly recently on this car, to be honest with you, but I'm still doing it again, because without having proper history on the car, we can't be guaranteed of anything really. You're just asking for trouble if you don't do it. Like, when you're in here anyway, why wouldn't you? Okay, so there's the spring off, and our tensioner pulley now as well. It's a nice setup actually, the way they have them on MX-5s, the little spring. So your spring is going to set the tension, and then you just lock it all down after you've got the tension set. So it takes the guesswork out of it. So right, okay, there we go. Now, next thing to do is take that timing belt off. So you kind of notice we're sort of working our way from this side to this side of the engine. Now I'm going to come around to the inlet side. A lot of people say that you need to take the intake manifold off the engine in order to remove the head. You don't, okay? You can take the intake manifold off after you've got the head off, and it will make life an awful lot easier for you. Granted, it makes the head a little bit heavier, but it's an aluminium head. You want to lift the head off a six-cylinder cast iron engine. That would be a different story. But this is all aluminium, so it's easy enough. Right, so there is a support bracket down the bottom here, which I'm going to show you now, which we need to remove first of all. This support bracket here literally just goes down onto the engine block from the intake manifold. So we're just going to disconnect it here. There is the gearbox breather in question. There is the vent tube goes onto a little spud down below, basically where my finger is there on that. And then the bracket, there's another bracket that goes on there, and that holds the whole assembly together. And then your dipstick tube goes on there too. So that's all disconnected and taken care of. That's our fuel harness. That's our harness for the injectors. So that can all stay on. So yeah, so I am going to start cracking head bolts. So what you need in order to remove the head bolts is you need a 12mm 12-point socket. So that will go on here. And basically I'm going to follow the sequence as shown in the Haynes Book of Fibs. So there's one. Need an extension on it. They're fairly loose, some of them. I have to wonder if these actually torqued correctly or what's the story. So anyway. Alright, there's the head bolts loose. Oh my god, look at that. That's not good, like, I mean, that should not be down there. So is that bolt loose or what's the story? Yeah, look at that one as well. I mean, there's all the goop on this. I suppose that could be where the head gasket's actually blown. Okay. Well, it's not stuck anyway, so that's a good start. All right. Bit of work going on off camera here. I have a new water pump in and gaskets and all that for that. I use shellac on the paper gaskets to go on that. It helps to seal them. I know some people use RTV, but I just find the RTV just goes to mush. Have the face of the block pretty much cleaned off and blew out all the bolt holes with compressed air. So yeah, we're getting there now with it. I probably will do just another little bit of cleaning on this though. I'm just looking there at that. I wonder is that actually where the gasket was blowing through actually as well. So yeah, anyway, it's looking a hell of a lot cleaner there one way or another. And same story with the head here as well. So I have have it down on a piece of cardboard there just to protect the sealing face of it there, and I have it all cleaned up as well. But yeah, it's pretty much the same kind of effort. So we're pretty much at a point now where we can actually refit the head and then get the timing belt on. I have all the parts there after arriving. You'll see on the roof of the car there. So I have new gaskets, an entire top end gasket set in actual fact. I have the timing belt kit with the new tensioner pulleys and all that as well, and I have a few other little nice bits and pieces and that as well to throw onto the car. So let's continue on. I've all the surfaces all cleaned up here now, and obviously new water pump installed. I've blown out the holes for the bolts as well, holding the head down, so they're all clean. And basically what you're looking for is, like, I got a bit of blue roll and went over the sealing faces to make sure that there was no residues or anything like that as well. And I've also put a straight edge across them, and they are flat, including the head. So you'll see the head here as well is looking pretty decent. I mean, any kind of little imperfections there will be taken up by the head gasket. Now the next area of concern before I fit this head is actually this. I hadn't attacked it yet, but I'm going to do it now. Is that is plugged solid, and so is that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip the head over now, and I'm going to take the thermostat housing off, the thermostat out, and I'm going to drill through these because they are absolutely solid with crap. And anything that's going to affect the cooling of this engine it has to be dealt with, because that's obviously the reason why we had a head gasket failure in the first place. Fortunately enough, it's not a ball of rust in here. What I am going to do is I'm going to test the thermostat as well and make sure it's actually serviceable too, though, while I have it out. So you'd be crazy not to do that, really. Kind of funny how it's a little bit offset like that. I suppose it's to allow for the little bleeding valve that's on it there. But yeah, we'll clean that up and test it anyway as well. I actually didn't buy a new one. I probably should have done in reality, but look, if it works, it works. So I'm going to drill out these ports here and make sure that they're running free and everything as well. There's no silt or crap or anything like that in there, which is the main thing. And yeah, at least that way then when we put it all back together again, we know we're right. Now I will check the pipework that actually connects onto them as well, make sure that that's not blocked either. Okay, the thermostat's working fine. That's open there now, just heated it up gently with a heat gun. So yeah, we can refit that. Right, so that's refitted now, and I have a new gasket on it with a little bit of Permatex on the seals as well. So I'm happy with that. And I have the timing marks all lined up. They basically line up with this mark on the rear, the backing plate. Basically, it's not the most accurate type of thing, to tell you the truth. I mean, I would prefer if it was a kind of a finer mark. But anyway, look, for the purposes of this exercise, Mazda seem to be happy enough that that's what they need. So we're going to go with it. Anyway, having a look here then as well, I've also marked up the bottom pulley, and that is much more accurate. So we're good to go on that. So a last little clean. I'm going to flip over the head again, just give it a last clean, spray a brake cleaner, and we're going to pop the head back onto the block. Okay, so now make sure we clear the path for ourselves. Because even without the intake, the head's heavy enough when you're holding it at arm's length, you know. If you need to get a second pair of hands to do this job, I suggest that's what you do. There we go. Right. That's it on. So now we're going to get our bolts in and get them torqued up. So the new gasket comes with this tightening procedure. Okay, so it gives you the tightening order, and it says go 22 foot-pounds, 43 foot-pounds, loosen them off 90 degrees, and then go 58 foot-pounds, and then loosen it off 90 degrees and go 58 foot-pounds, and then that's it tight. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow that procedure there, and that's the order in which you tighten it. So we're going to follow this. I need to take the guide studs out now as well. So what I did was I put a slot on the top of them to get it with a flathead screwdriver, but we'll do that now. So the guide studs are M10 by 1.5. There's one of them. Okay, so there's our two guide studs out. So I have put the slightest little bit of oil on the threads of the bolts. So I'm going to drop them all in. Make sure the lands where the bolts are actually sitting are clean. I'm just going to give them a little wipe actually. Alright, so we're just going to wind them down until they're just coming up on finger tight. I've my impact gun set on its lowest set, and it's literally just to... Okay. Right, torque wrench is now set to 22 foot-pounds. I don't know why all the measurements are in foot-pounds instead of newton meters. They give you the translation, but anyway, look, that's what they want to do. So we'll start here. Okay, that's 22. Now we're going to 43. Alright, so now we back it off 90 degrees and we go 58 foot-pounds. Okay, now 58 foot-pounds. 58 foot-pounds is just over 78 Newton meters. So we're going to go, I've just verified both measurements there. So we're going to torque this up now to our final torque. So we'll go. One. Two. All right. So now that I have the head bolted on, I am going to start refitting the intake, and I have a funny feeling that it's going to be a right pain in the ass, but I have a new gasket anyway. I'm going to pop that on first of all and just work our way through it, and we'll get there in the end. So that's going to go on there, and there's 3 nuts to go on, and then the rest are bolts. So what we might do is just get the nuts on first, and then we can get the bolts on. I have all the surfaces all cleaned up and everything as well. So all the bolts and nuts are in for the manifold now, so last thing to do is to just torque them, and they take 22 Newton meters. I know having the torque wrench at an angle skews your measurement a little bit, but it's better to do this than to not torque them at all. Two more to do down the bottom and then we're done. Right, intake manifold is now on and torqued. Next thing we're going to do is the timing belt. I'm going to get the idler pulley on first here. I'm just going to put a bit of tread lock on the threads, and what we can do is we can actually put this on and torque it up now, and then we can start putting our belt on. I've gone over all of the marks and everything on the pulleys. So the funny thing about it is, although the water pump isn't driven by the timing belt in this engine, you still have to take the timing belt off to change the water pump, which to me is a little bit on the annoying side of things, but that's how they do it. So tighten that in there now for the moment, and I'm just going to get a torque wrench on that, and we're just going to tighten that up, and then we can start getting our torque wrench onto the, or we can get our belt on, and then we get the tensioner pulley on with its spring. Alright, there we go. So that's on and free to turn. So now we can start putting our belt on, and I've got the engines lined up at top dead centre, and we've got our pulleys marked up. Well, that one needs to be turned a little bit, but it's marked in the correct position. It just tends to spring back a little bit. Okay, so get the belt loosely into position here first of all anyway. Literally just used it. 14 spanner on the pulley there, and one of this, just make sure you don't go and do something silly like loosen the pulley or the nut. Alright, need to get our tensioner on as well. Okay, let's get the tensioner on now. Actually don't need to put the belt on first, so I'm just going to throw that up out of the way for the moment, and there is a little spud that the tensioner pulley goes down onto down here. So that goes in there. You can pop a bolt in there. Now we're not going to tighten this. We're just going to run it in, but leave it loose. So that'll allow it to pivot. And we have a little spring that'll need to go on as well, but we're not going to put the spring on just yet. Yeah, so now we can put the belt on. The exhaust camshaft is bang on. The intake is there yet. Now, it's important to look at these things straight on, because if you don't look at them straight on, you introduce what's called parallax error. And parallax error is when you're looking at something skew ways. That's all pretty good there now. Now what we're going to have to do is rotate the engine a couple of times by hand just to make sure that everything is sitting correctly. But we need to put the tension on the belt now, so we're going to put our spring on next. And here is the spring, and basically the open end of the spring faces to your right as you're looking at the engine here. So the little spud that it hooks onto over near the idler pulley. So we get a hook pick and pull that over that direction. Just be careful you don't damage the belt when you're doing that. Or option B, use a long nose pliers. So now, right, check all our marks. They're all looking pretty decent. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the engine a couple of times before we tighten up the tensioner, and we're going to just let everything settle into its correct position, and then once we've done that, rotated the engine a couple of times, then we can button it all back up. In order to rotate the engine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put the bottom pulley bolt in temporarily. I think what I might do is take the spark plugs out to do this as well, so that we don't have any restriction in the movement other than, well, no restriction in the movement in fact. Alright, yeah, I'll get the spark plugs out and I'll come back to you. Right, so the plugs are out, so now I'm going to rotate the engine, and we're going to rotate it a couple of times and get the marks back to where they're supposed to be. Remember, it's 2 turns of the crank for every 1 turn of the camshafts, so we'll probably rotate it, well, at least 4 or 5 times anyway. So just, that bolt just has to tighten in a little bit. There we go. There's no restrictions there anyway, that's for sure. And there it is, back at top dead centre. Timing marks are all lined up. We'll go around one more time just to be sure. Alright, we're at top dead centre and our timing marks are bang on. Okay, happy days. Right, that's the belts done. So now I can tighten up our tensioner pulley, and then that is done. So that's another big job out of the way. So 50 Newton meters on that pulley as well. All right, job's a good one. So now we have a timing belt on as well. Last thing I need to do now is get the bottom pulley cover thingy on. This is a pain in the ass, this yoke. I can't remember if that goes on before or after the bottom pulley cover. I have a few bits done off camera just to kind of progress things. The bottom pulley is on, and I got the nut tightened in the centre as well. I've got all the timing covers on, so we're kind of nearly ready to get the belts on. I have to put the water pump pulley on still. So now the cam cover is ready to go on, so I'm going to pop that on there now as well, and that'll be kind of real big bit syndrome. So we will it'll look an awful lot more complete when I have that on, and then we can kind of start working our way around the engine bay and get the likes of the exhaust manifold on and the intake pipe work and coolant pipe work, that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, we'll continue on. I'm going to put some copper grease on these bolts because they have a tendency to get seized in the holes. I'll throw some engine oil in it there now at this point so that it can kind of work its way down and take any crap that's in the block down with it, because we're literally only going to be running it for a very short space of time with this oil in it, and then we're going to be changing the oil again. About 2.5 litres in there now. Bit more progress has been made here now. I have the exhaust manifold and heat shield back on. I gave it a little coat of high temperature paint. Belts are on, and I have got a lot of the wiring connected up and everything as well. Sort of small little bits and pieces by and large, but yeah, or just stuff that's really not that interesting to watch me do. I mean, the exhaust manifold is a simple operation to reattach 42 newton meters, I think was the torque I put on them. So that's done as well. Obviously new gasket, there's new gasket on the intake manifold as well. So that's all good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting the intake pipework on it, and I'm going to start putting the coolant pipework on, and basically get everything tidied up on this side of the engine bay, and then we can lift the car up and get the exhaust onto it. Right, so that's the intake fitted. The air filter box and everything with the airflow meter on. Coil pack is fitted. All the wiring is completed. Things like the throttle cable are reconnected, and various different little hoses and noodly bits. Things that are small details, but just as important as the big stuff. So that's all done and dusted. We don't have the coolant system connected up yet because, as I said, I'm going to have to flush that. And the exhaust manifold is on, but the downpipe and back box are not on. So that is that's not going to stop us from starting it though. So yeah, there's nothing to stop me cranking it over and actually giving it a start and seeing if everything is alright. It's going to be noisier than hell, but sure, look, we'll be alright. I'm not going to run it for very long. I had the plug pulled for the coil pack, so it's not going to start this time. I just want to crank it over, make sure we build oil pressure, and just have a listen to it, make sure it all sounds good, and then we can go for a start. So let's see how we fare out now. Unfortunately, I'm off a booster pack because the battery is dead in this. Bit of a gallop to it actually. Anyway, we'll connect up the coil pack and see how we fare out now. Hopefully we'll get a bit of life and it'll sound okay. As I said, it's going to be incredibly loud, but sure, that's to be expected. Okay, so it runs. I'm just doing a smell test. I'm going to start it again and have a look. Why are we not starting now? I'm just going to check everything over and make sure I'm not missing something. I'm thinking there's obviously something amiss, so we'll figure it out. You know, I should really have given the engine some sort of a fighting chance to run right, so I fitted the exhaust now, so that's all in, buttoned into place and everything like that as well. So now we're going to start it again and see how it goes. I mean, a fuel-injected engine is not going to run right if there's no back pressure on it whatsoever. So literally there was no exhaust on this. So let's see what the difference is now. Rattle coming from underneath, and I think I know exactly what that is. Just a little bit of one of the hangers for the exhaust is a bit kind of close to the bodywork, so I think I'm going to have to do something about that. That's just sealant and copper grease and stuff like that burning off there. That's all the smoke is about here. Settling out nicely there anyway. Right, so now I'm going to get it outside. I'm going to get the garden hose stuck in the radiator and I'm going to flush all that out and everything. And I'm going to give the car a wash as well because we need to start getting into the bodywork. I might just throw it up on the ramp first of all, actually, though, and sort out that exhaust. Because, yeah, we can't leave it like that, can we? Oh, well, there's your problem right there. That's way too close. So what I want to do is bend that down. Like the rest of the exhaust is in perfect position. It's just that. It's just too high. So whether it got a knock in shipping, which isn't beyond the realms of possibility, or it was just bogey from the factory, which again is not beyond the realms of possibility, who's to know? Anyway, look, let's get it fixed one way or another. I'm going to bring it outside now and get the radiator flushed out and give it a wash. This is stuff called elbow grease. I find it very good for things like this. And it's not expensive either. Right, so the engine is running now, obviously, and I have got the coolant system all filled up with just water at the moment. So I'm going to let that water just flush around and kind of pick up any nasties or whatever, and I'll drain it out and then we'll put the coolant in afterwards once everything's all right. But I want to make sure that the radiator fan clicks on and off and everything is hunky-dory and as it should be. And while the engine is warming up, I'm going to give the car a belt of a sponge now. Well, the good news is it's not overheating anyway, so we've established that. The bad news is the radiator is leaking, so it's going to need a new radiator. It is what it is. Look, at least we copped it here anyway, and we know what's going on. As I squeeze the hose here, you can actually see water spraying out the bottom of the radiator, and I was lashing water into it. I was like, where is this all going? So that's the answer to that question anyway. Ah, well. Yeah. But look, as I said, it's not overheating, so that's the main thing. It's up to running temperature there now, and everything's looking good. You can see all the steam coming from the radiator there, though. Oh, and our temperature gauge doesn't seem to be working either, so that's another issue. Anyway, not to worry. New temperature gauge, new radiator, and we'll be all right. And changing the radiator is not a major job in these, in fairness. Bugger. So it's quite a few days later, and I've actually got quite a bit done on this car. You'll see straight away that it is fairly shiny. Now that's just after the first coat of polish, and I need to give it a good coat of wax now at this stage. I went over it with some paint restorer, basically the what was it, the Maguire's Ultimate Compound, that's what it is. So it's actually very, very good stuff. But the paint came up really nice. Now it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I didn't set out to achieve perfection. I just set out to kind of restore the shine, and that I certainly did. The car is looking very, very nice indeed. So in addition to that, I'll just walk you around and show you what else I've got done. So I'm pleased to report the engine is now finished. I've got a new radiator in, and that's all filled and bled and everything now, and the engine's ticking over fine. The only thing I do need to do still is I want to set the timing on it, because the timing is a little bit off. I can tell just by the way it's running. So that's one job. The other thing as well is you'll notice maybe the absence of a wiper motor here. After trying to figure out why the wipers weren't working in the car, it turned out that the wiper motor that was in the car was out of a Suzuki Grand Vitara and not a Mazda MX-5 at all. Little surprises me anymore with this car, to be honest with you. But yeah, so I have a new wiper motor ordered for it, and that's going to be going in there, and that will sort out the wiper situation. The switch and everything like that on the dash, the column stalk is actually fine. I actually robbed the wiper motor out of my wife's car just to test it, just to make doubly sure before I put in an order, because they're not the easiest things in the world to get, especially for Mark 1. The other thing I did is I got the electric windows working on the driver's side. Basically gave the motor a few taps with the handle of a pliers, and it actually came back to life, although very sluggish. So greased up the mechanism, you can see there, the cables and everything like that. So that's all good. I also took out the gear shift because there was a huge amount of side to side movement in that, and it turned out there was actually 2 spacers missing in it. So I reinstated those spacers. That's now lovely and working really well. So that's another thing. Now you'll see the interior is still pretty incomplete, let's just say, and needs a good clean out. But that being said, I will show you now where we're getting with the boot. You can see now the carpet has all been cleaned up in there. There is a little bit of stuff in here, obviously, this thing here, but yeah, the boot's all nice and clean, and everything is good there. So yeah, it's another big one. But yeah, look at that paintwork. It's a fabulous colour, I have to say. I really do like it. If truth be told, my wife has been drooling over it as well, because this is definitely a colour she would have gone for. She was drooling over this car long before I bought the MX-5 for her. So yeah, I mean, look, it's this one's really coming together now, and I have to say it's yeah, I've been enjoying the process so far. So yeah, last things to do now really are, I want to button up the interior, get all the bits and pieces sorted out there. A few little kind of customer complaints of things that basically she has noticed while driving. She was saying water is coming in on her feet, so I need to find out what's going on there. And she also wants the headlights, when they're closed, to be flush with the bonnet, which I can completely understand. And it's something else I need to do. And yeah, basically just things like the hazard lights aren't working. I'm going to have a little look at them and see if I can figure that out. And yeah, then we can take it out for a bit of a spin and see how it's driving. I'm just putting the interior back together here, and I see the owner left me a little surprise. Oh, Jesus! Oh. God knows how long that's been there. Oh, Christ on a bike. Anyone want a bite? I'll send it out to you by post. You've probably seen a few videos with this car in the background at this stage. To be honest with you, I've been just chipping away at it over the last while, and I wanted to actually get ahead while other things were going on in the meantime too. But I've actually got a load of parts ordered for it now. They've arrived, so I'm going to start bolting parts onto it. I got a new window wiper motor, I got a new indicator flasher relay, and I got a pair of rear shocks and couple of other little bits and pieces which we'll go through now. I did get to take it out for a drive, and it performed very well. The engine pulled along really good. The gearbox shifted through the gears absolutely fine. Brakes are okay, but the shock absorbers nearly came up through my spine. The rear shocks are absolutely knackered. I said it to the owner, and she said, look, just order a pair and stick them in for me. So I have a pair of rear shock absorbers. The other thing as well is the rear diff is howling. It sounds like there's a bearing gone in it. So what I suggested to her is we just try and change the oil in it for the time being, see if that kind of buys a bit more time, but it's going to need a set of diff bearings at some stage. Personally, I'd be looking for a second-hand diff rather than changing the bearings in it. But look, we can evaluate that in the future if that's the way she wants to go. So in the meantime, I'm going to get the wiper motor on, I'm going to get the indicator flasher unit in and get those shocks done. I mean, I knew it was bad, but Jesus, look at this. 4 pieces. And look at the shock. That's not doing a whole lot there now. So, that's why the car was all over the bloody road anyway. I've got one side done, the driver's side, and this is the one for the passenger side. So I'm literally just working away off camera here, to be honest with you, just to get this finished. Rear diff oil is changed as well. I did that because it's making a racket, and I'm hoping an oil change will just buy a little bit more time before it needs to be replaced. But yeah, I mean, look, it's only basically a method for extending its life a little bit, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, I'm going to get the new spring and strut installed. To be honest with you, if I could have bought the entire strut assembly easily, I would have done, but I'm just going to reuse the old strut tops. That's basically the only part of this I am actually reusing. Well, folks, I am pleased to report that this car is now officially finished, aside from needing a coat of polish, which I'm going to do now. So we've got the timing belt done, the head gasket, the water pump, the rear shocks and springs, the diff oil, engine oil flushed it twice, new radiator, removed the aircon condenser, removed the aircon pump, and let me think what else. Fixed the wiper motor, fixed the indicator flasher unit, cleaned the interior, gave the exterior a coat of polish, replaced the indicator unit on this side, replaced the driver's door mirror, fixed the electric window on that side. There's a lot of hours gone into this car, to be honest with you. But thankfully, it's now good to go. So I'm going to take it out for a spin, make sure everything is as it should be, and give it a coat of polish, and then give the owner a shout and let her know it's ready to collect. Well, I'm pleased to report it's driving really well. Aside from that howling noise coming from the rear diff, which is unfortunately still there, it's going great. And that ramp I just went over there nearly put my back out when I went over it there before, as you can imagine with the springs the way they were. Now the only thing I'm noticing is the temperature gauge is not working, so need to have a look at that and see what's going on there. Maybe just an electrical connection I forgot to put on or something like that. So we'll see. There is a spade terminal under the in the engine bay, which I couldn't identify where it went or what it did, so I'd imagine that's what that's for. So we'll put that right. Simple fix. It was just the spade terminal that was supposed to be down there. I'll show you where it is. It's a nightmare. You can't see the bleeding thing. It's right down underneath. That's the wire that goes onto it. It's hard enough for me to get my big meat fists onto it, ever about anything else. So anyway, it's there, it's on, it's done. Happy days. So yeah, now the only other thing I want to see is that radiator fan coming on, and once that's come on, then I know we're all good. Well, when it goes on and goes back off again. Stayed me bloody hand from trying to get that stupid thing on. That's their job. And the rad fan clicked off. That's exactly what we want to see. It's looking well now. My wife just wanted to take it for a little run just to see what the difference is between hers and this one, but that's a smart looking car now. Well, what's the verdict?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was brilliant.
Driving well?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we swapping?
No.
We won't swap.
Good, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. Well, now I know what it should be like, so yeah.
Well, it's what we need to work towards on that one anyway. I'll be pulling the engine apart on that at some stage, but sure luck. So I've been on the phone to the owner of the car, and she's on her way up to collect it there now today, and she is absolutely over the moon with the work that's been done on it. As am I, to be honest with you. I think it's turned out really, really well. It's looks smart, driving great. Engine's not overheating at all, you know. I mean, we've definitely given this car a new lease of life, and it'll be hopefully well looked after in the owner's hands again now, and it back in regular use, because it was in regular use before the head gasket went. So I'm going to leave it there anyway. Please hit the subscribe button before you go, folks. We've plenty of projects still in the wings waiting to go, and bits and pieces to come up. So yeah, hit the subscribe button, and if you liked what you saw, hit the like button as well. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in a future video.